Hey guys, this is Brian Barrera again, CEO of LC Innovation. I believe this is part six. I thought we were gonna get one video, then I said four or five, and now we're on part six. So we're on part six, but this is it. There's no more after this one. I'm gonna finish up with this one. Well, if I can't, we'll do seven, but our goal is to get six done. So the last one we left off on was best under pressure, right? Um, Prioritize immediacy over accuracy under speed, right? This is a red flag. I work best under pressure. I work best in chaos. No, you don't. No, you don't. It just gets you to get your job done. But as you're doing things fast and you're working fast and trying to get this done, the errors are piling up. You're forgetting certain key information. And that's usually what happens when you turn things in last minute. That's why you don't get an A plus in your test or in your certification because you waited last minute. But if you took your time and you planned accordingly and you studied accordingly, chances are you're going to do a lot better. If you went over your pricing multiple times, not analysis by paralysis, but if you went over your pricing multiple times and you had enough time to check out other areas where similar products are being ran and you did a price comparison and you looked into several different types of initiatives that you can do if certain things are met, certain criteria is met, certain goals are met, you have the time to do that. You don't have the time to do that in the last minute. So yeah, speed prioritizes immediacy over accuracy. Fielding, strategic foresight, and system protection, right? The good things about it, the good things about what it looks like is prevents issues before they escalate. We talked about that. Anchors decisions in second and third order thinking. The chain reaction, right? The chain reaction, right? Is how is this going to affect my next team or my other team? Okay, if we're accepting this product right now, if we're accepting it and it's not running under acceptable specs, it's not under acceptable thresholds, it's at the lower end or the higher end of the acceptance criteria. If it's going to get out of whack, and if we keep running it, it's going to float even more. It's going to float even more out of spec, right? It's going to keep going. So what's that going to affect then? Even though your team wants to run it and they don't think it's going to bother anything, you know that the second decision you're going to have to make is when you ship product and you're gathering all the data, how are you going to show all that data? Should you call the employee? Should you call your client right away? Should you talk to them about what's going? Should you have them come to your facility, or should you take parts over to their facility so you can see what's going on? Because if these parts are bad, you're going to have to rerun them, and you can scrap all the parts that you have. On top of that, what happens if you're not reaching your goals or your criteria or your specs inside of the sales agreement or the contract or whatever? And then what's going to happen if they miss it? If they miss it and they send the parts to the end user and the parts aren't functioning correctly or they're breaking or they're cracking or if it's just not good, who's going to pay for that? So if they missed it and it gets to the end user is going to blame them and they're going to get in trouble because they didn't check the parts. So they're not going to look good. They're expecting you to follow what you promised you can do. So if you notice, there's multiple chains. There's you sending out bad parts, them missing it, getting to the end user then beats them up. Then the end user doesn't want to work with them anymore because they can't handle their suppliers. And because they can't handle their suppliers, you're then out of being a key supplier for that client. And you ruined it for them, right? So it prevents issues before they escalate. The bad part of it is becomes rigid or risk averse, right? Too much. You're too much. You're like a box, and nothing comes in that box, and nothing gets out of that box. Anchors decisions in second and third order thinking, stalls innovation through what ifs, right? Next is balance ambition with consequences. That's very good. You know the balance. You have a really good balance, but then it grows defensive when challenged because you have that balance. You feel like you've looked at all the consequences, you've dotted all the I's and crossed all the T's. But so, because you've done that, when you're challenged, you grow defensive because you think in your head, there's no way that person knows what I know. There's no way that person can tell me what to do because I know what I have to do. So these people, usually when they get challenged, they get very, very defensive. Stabilizes the team under stress, right? Stabilize it. Very good stuff. The bad side, the red flag is defaults to binary thinking, right? Such huge, very, very important. Hitting for average, right? Delivers steady output in high pressure or low glory roles. I love that. Low glory roles. It's not about you, it's about the team. The bad part of it is hides behind routine, avoids growth or stretch. They don't want the recognition, but at the same time, they don't want to grow. They don't have stretch goals. They hide behind the routine. They're okay with that. But what happens when you start aging? What happens when life hits you, right? What happens if you're sick? What happens if you catch something? What happens then? The routine's gone. Life happens. And that's the part that really hits the hitting for average and these people that are okay in those roles of low glory roles, which is okay. But once you get behind that routine and you love that routine, you don't adapt well. You're stuck in that routine. And then when you're aging or when you've been somewhere for too long and a new leader comes in and they want something different, you're so stuck right here and you don't want to get out of it, that the new ownership or the new manager, the new department head starts really disliking you and they stop going to you for decisions in your wheelhouse because you refuse to look outside the box. You refuse to look at a different route because you're so used to that routine. You get stuck there and the whole world passes you by because you refuse to get out of your box. Maintains process integrity through distractions, bad side red flags, resists pivots or improvisation. We talked about that. Serves as the backbone others lean on. Bad side about it is operates on autopilot with no introspection. Right? You're the backbone, you know that, but you refuse to do other things. You refuse to let something chaotic come in. I know I was talking about chaos earlier, about you working under chaos, but don't get me wrong, chaos is needed. It is needed because through chaos we build new systems. We do build new systems. And I'm not talking about breaking down systems. I'm not. I'm talking about improving systems or building new systems. If you can't improve a system, then a new system needs to be built. I totally understand that. But what I'm talking about is really understanding what that system has. What is with that system, right? Adapts to tempo without losing consistency, gets overlooked in flashy cultures. I want to go back to that system. Serves as the backbone that others lean on. That's so huge, and it is true. A lot of these people don't get recognition for it. They don't. But it's like I said, it's because when you have a cancer that comes inside, or when you have a new industry shift, and you're the backbone, and this is what you've built, it gets very hard for you to adjust or to implement new systems. Right? It's good. You're good to pivot, but when you have to adapt or create something new, you don't do that because this is what you built. This is my baby, and it becomes so hard, especially when it's somebody who's out there who is in charge of a department or a process or an area, because they've built it like this, and when something else comes in, they just like a machine malfunction, they start to shake and they don't really understand that I have to change this. I have to, because the whole world is changing, right? We do need those people though that will be consistent and stay as that backbone. We need that as well. We really do need that as well. But I'm just saying sometimes it could be a bad thing. That's the red flag. Last one is arm strength. Arm strength is translates complexity into actionable clarity. Red flag is speaks to perform, not to understand. Translates complexity into actionable clarity. That's so huge. It's framing the right way. Olin Pratt, I forgot his name was. He has this book about um, complexity into clarity, framing. It's called Framing. Such a great book. When I find his name and the book, I'll make sure I reach out to everybody and let everybody know. But it's so huge to understand. That's such a strength to understand that. Align stakeholders with curiosity and candor, builds trust via emotional intelligence. We talked about that, demonstrates customer centric presence, right? The bad side uses charm to mask misalignment. We talked about that. Silences nuance and dissent, wins attention but loses the message. And that's it, guys. I have a rating scale. Sorry, I want to stay raw and uncut, right? So I have a rating scale that I built, which will follow with this, and I've also written a book that I'm editing right now, which is based on the 5-tool employee framework. But this is the first step. This is talking about the overview, the scope of what the 5-tool framework is. You can use this immediately out in the field, but if you really want to use it, you can start dissecting and start paying attention, start noticing things, and then later on we can introduce the rating scale. And when we put the rating scale in there, man, you're really going to start using this in your evaluations. But you can start using this in 360-degree feedback. hiring process. You can handle it. You can hand it to your executives or to your team, print it out, hand it to them, and tell them what's going on. Another thing that's going to follow too is in the book. There's going to be, and I'm going to go over it in the course. In a separate course, we're going to go over to interview questions as well. All right, guys, that's it. Thank you so much. And this is the 5-tool employee framework. Tear it up out there, guys. All right.